Welcome to this DDI CADcast What's New series. I'm Michael Nolte. Today we're covering what's new in SOLIDWORKS Electrical. This is part one of a multi-part series. Here's a list of some of the items that we're actually going to be covering in this section. Alright, so let's go and jump straight in and start taking a look at some of these here. Alright, our first one is sorting and renumbering terminals in Terminal Strip Editor. So we can get into this a couple of different ways. The easiest, if we right click over one of the terminal strips, go to Edit Terminal Strip, and then we have the Advanced tab. And I'm just going to pick down here so it allows me to get to this new Reorder button here. So I'm going to go into that. We've got several different options on how we want to renumber our terminal strips. So we can do position on scheme, cable wire marks, terminal strip, or even a custom. The custom allows you to do first, second, and third criteria. I'm going to go with position on scheme and then turn on this renumbering checkbox. And I'm going to have it go through and say maybe start out at 10, and I'll have it skip every 2. Okay, and then renumber the terminals only. Okay. With that set, go and watch the numbers over here on my terminal strip on the right there. Go and hit OK. And you'll see that based off of where they are on the page, it skips every 2 and then renumbers all my terminals for me. So again, the other way that I could get into it is Projects tab, Terminal Strip, and then I could go into the terminal strip here as well. So I could just double click on that and it gets me to the exact same spot. Okay. Alright, so the next one. Alright, so this next one is manual page break in terminal strips. So I'm going to go in through the components list and actually find one of the terminal strips through this method. And again, there's lots of different ways of getting to the terminal strip. I'm going to right click and say edit terminal strip, and that gets us into the that particular terminal strip. So the manual editing allows us to switch over to the advanced tab, select where we want the page break to be added, and again this is on the terminal strip drawing, which I'll show you here in a moment. But I'm going to select number 9 there and say page break, and it manually adds in a page break. So when it creates the terminal strip drawing, it's going to manually only allow, well, 2 criteria. One is based off of the automatic, which I'll show you here in a moment, and this manual page break there. So only allowing up to 9 in this case if it'll fit on the page. If you need to delete, highlight it again, hit the page break. Say we want to move it up a little bit further, highlight 3 there, and then it'll add a page break below there. Alright, so let me go and show you the other part of it here too. So if we go over to the Projects tab, Configurations, down to the Terminal Strip Drawing, and I'm just going to go into this default Terminal Strip Drawing, go into its Properties, and it's kind of a combination of a couple of things. One is the terminal, essentially the height of how big you want the terminal to be, and also the layout. So the layout is based off of the numbers that are set up here. So number 1, which is our terminal strip height, is 7.7. So that's our allowable area to put, and also if we have any breaks there. So again, spacing there. So all that's based off of the automatic, or sets the automatic, but then we can now add the manual ones through the terminal strip editor directly to that particular terminal strip. Alright, so this next one is location and function outlines. I'm only going to show the location, but the function actually works about the exact same here. So I've got a different drawing here, so I'm actually going to show you the location of that particular drawing. So everything on that drawing is currently set to L1, except for items that are set manually. So if I go into each one of these individually, so symbol properties, you'll see that that one's at the L1 of the door there. So it's actually sublocation of the first L1, so it calls that out next to the symbol. But suppose I wanted both of these 2 symbols at L1 in a location box. I'm just going to go and grab my location outline from the schematics tab here, draw a box around it, both of them there, and then I go and pick out what location I want it to go to. Okay. Go and hit select, and this is the new dialog, so I can either do nothing or change the location of both the components. So now when I do location, it actually sets both of those to the L1 door, and if I look at the symbol properties, it's now set for me, so I no longer have to go through and manually set those. So this next one is actually the translation of text for the project. So that one shows up over here on our process tab. We have the translate button. Okay. And we have to have more than one language selected, so it's actually going to open up our project settings. So it's going to open that up. And over here on the project settings tab, I'm going to go and add an additional language there. So let's go and throw in maybe German or something. Hit OK there. And that'll go and go into the translate. Yeah, so what they've done this year is they've added a find and replace button. So what we can do is we can say find and replace. So let's see, let's just go hello. That's probably not in there. Find next. Let's see, let's go and find something like electric. Okay. And then we can go and do case, match, whole word, and then we can also do a replace in the same dialog as well. So for those that are doing multi-languages, this will definitely speed up the process there of getting more than one language set. This next one is new data concerning the material terminals of components. Okay, so essentially it's the ability of setting the maximum number of terminals per connection. So I'm going to jump over to another page here. We can do it on our terminal strip. So if I right click and say edit terminal or edit symbol terminals, we actually have a max number there, so I can say maybe 2 for that and hit OK. And I can also do it over on my PLCs as well, edit terminals, symbol terminals, and then I can actually set the max number of wires there as well. So definitely a big advantage for controlling how many wires are being connected per screw terminal there. So this next one is the editing component material terminals. Essentially, that's kind of what we just saw. The edit symbol terminals. Essentially, the fact that it shows up in the right-click menu is kind of the big feature. But also, if we do go into our edit PLC and come down to one of the circuits there, we also have the edit terminals listed there as well. And again, giving our max wire number there as well. So definitely advantage getting more stuff in the right-click menus this year. This new item is new object used to hide drawing. So I'm actually going to go over to the drawing tab, and it falls under the others option, and it's called Wipeout. And essentially the Wipeout allows us to draw a box around something that might be proprietary, and then when we complete the box here, right click, and then it'll actually wipe out anything that's on that particular object. Nice thing about it is it's specifically where you click. So if I do a wipeout, I could still actually leave the component reference there, and it'll still say that's K2, but then I actually have a box that wipes it out and doesn't break any of the electrical connection. So if I was to print this out and give it to an end customer, then they wouldn't see our proprietary object or whatever might be on my schematic there. The new interface for the reports manager, that one's pretty straightforward. They didn't do much changes with it, but over here on the project tab, I go into the reports button. And if you remember last year, or if you've were using last year's, we actually had tabs going across the top, one tab for each of the report manager. Also, what they did is they actually brought the reports over to the left here and then gave our columns on the right side there. So it's a little bit cleaner look, a little bit easier to get around. So if we go and select one of them, go to properties, it gives us the exact same layout or interface that we were actually working with last year. So not a whole lot of changes, but kind of useful as far as the arrangement of the reports now. The reports text export, that again, we'll go back into reports here again. And the text export, this has been there in prior years, but this year what they've done is they've given us the ability of doing TXT or CSV. So CSV is the comma separated values extension. Essentially the format is the same, it's just a different extension type, but anyways, it's one less thing to have to change after the fact there. So this one is reports text and Excel export. So what this one is, and I still have yet to kind of get it to work quite the way I expect it to, but if we go into our reports text export, there's this extra checkbox called add created files to project, and I believe this is going to be adding it to book 1 of that this project that I have open. One thing I have noticed though is if you go in there, that sometimes that the OK button is unchecked and it's not available. So you do have to hit the cancel, go back in again, check it, cancel again, and then the OK button becomes available. But at this point, so as soon as I hit OK and then go and hit OK, I don't get the additional text files added into the document book. I'm currently running an early visibility of Service Pack 2, so that could be part of the issue there. This second to last item is the Reports Templates Selector. And what this one is if we go into our reports and we go to add a new report, we have the ability of actually filtering. So if we're just looking for maybe cable, and then we go and hit enter there, it'll actually filter it just by items that contain cable rather than actually having to go through the entire list. So it makes it a lot easier to find the specific table or report that we're looking for rather than having to scroll through the entire list, especially if you start adding or creating custom ones. So, and again, this whole area up here on the top is definitely a new item that will speed up your process of getting the right report selected. This final one for the part 1 of this SOLIDWORKS Electrical What's New 2014 is the user data. Essentially, it's a new index number that they've added to the user data field. So I'm going to go over to the Projects tab here, down to Configurations, go to User Data, and it's specifically the one that I'm looking for is the Project User Data Description. So I'm going to actually go into that one. Double click to get the properties. So we've got the standard user data field. So I'm going to select user data. I'll go and add a insert user data. So notice they've changed the button there too. So go and click that. I'll go and type in a new one here. So I'm going to go to user data and I'll go 3. I hit OK there. And you'll see that we actually have these index numbers 0, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. And then we also have the ability of moving those up and down through the list there. If I need to make a change, I can actually either delete that or I could go and add some additional information to it over here on the right. But biggest thing is that index number that they've added this year. For more CADcast topics, check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/DDICAD or tech blog at ddicad.com/techcenter. Thanks for watching.